Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Riche of the MHRT Network. Over there, that away is the real Alex Givens. You can catch him. Boom. What the heck's a boom? Come on, you gotta let me finish.
Just boom. Boom.
We got Alex over here from Arrowhead Addict. Trust me when I tell you, Alex has a lot of things that he and I specifically are going to get into just due to some of our backgrounds in terms of some new news as it pertains to our division specifically. You are not going to want to miss a segment that's going to come up directly after the intro here. Also, the league is about to start, or not about, but we're going to start getting into the league year when we start the season, and Alex and Coach are going to spin back up the lightning fast fantasy podcast together again. So get your fantasy stuff from them. You may lose, but that's fine as long as you're in my league. And then we got Robert. Dude. Then we got Robert down here below representing his Chargers. Robert, thank you very much again. Love the content, love the takes and the balanced approach that you have with your Chargers, which is refreshing to get from many, simply because I think too many of us. Not me, because I'm basically the most critical Broncos fan you're ever going to meet. But too many of us are too involved in the team and have our respective team colored glasses on. I think it makes for a far more interesting season when you approach things a little bit more level-headed, and it certainly does not set you up for disappointment as much, and could actually lead for you having a much better Sunday if you kind of beat a team that you actually think you shouldn't have. That certainly makes your weekend that much sweeter. But anyways, we have a great show for you today. If you follow us on X or Twitter, whatever it's called now, I don't know, it'll change names again. If you follow us on X, went ahead and posted the topics for the show. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and follow us there at Wild Wild West Pod. It'd be great to have more followers and kind of getting some commentary going on there. We're going to start off with the Rashee Rice situation. Like I said, Alex and I have a unique background in this situation.
Address the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah. Address the 900-pound elephant in the room, or should I say the Lamborghini-sized elephant in the room, if you will. And then we're going to jump right into a few additional free agent acquisitions from all of our teams in the AFC West. And then if there's time at the end, or at least just as a quick summary, we'll kind of go over the state of our linebacking core on each of our teams. That'll be inside backers and outside backers, and kind of get some information in terms of where we're at, and maybe some news in terms of what we think we might do in the draft to address either gaps or even trades, depending on if we think that a couple of the guys in our roster may be traded come draft day, or maybe just after the draft. So let's spin this puppy up and start talking about what everyone is likely here to discuss, and that is, I don't want to say misery loves company or anything along those lines, because I don't really see these sorts of things as laughing matters. I didn't really see the news that we had a couple years ago with Ruggs in Las Vegas as a laughing matter. I also don't see this particular issue as a laughing matter either. There are at least a few people that are injured as a result of what took place with Rashee Rice and what is appearing to be at least his circle of friends that were present. And at least one person, to my knowledge, is either still in hospital or is just coming out of hospital as a result of the crash. But, if there is a silver lining, assuming you wish to call it that, nobody was killed. And given the speed in which those vehicles were going, that was certainly not outside the realm of possibility, especially with the one car turning around, going horizontally on the road. Could have easily resulted in a rollover of sorts, despite the fact that there's a size difference between the cars. It does not matter. At that speed, you can kind of roll a car regardless. So happy that there was no it does not take a lot, right? So happy there was no fatalities. All indications are that there was no major injuries aside from kind of some stuff that kind of took place there, like I was saying earlier. And now we just kind of get into the mud, as it will, and the nitty-gritty details, the legalese and other things. Alex, I'm going to throw over to you and get your take on some of the stuff initially.
Yeah. So, obviously, start things off. It's certainly an unfortunate, situation for, the families involved. I know there were some young kids in the car that, probably a fairly traumatic incident to experience at such a young age. And, just unfortunate that Rashee Rice would make these decisions to even be in this situation. But, it's, I'd say somewhat nature of the beast with the, 22, 23-year-old getting some money and first off season, this isn't it's not the first time this kind of situation's come up, but yeah, thankfully no one was seriously hurt or killed, and no one's had any. It doesn't seem like there's any major reported injuries, so glass half full. Could have been a whole lot worse.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as from what I think the facts are out there, they pretty much, I think, as much as what's been proven of Rice's involvement to this point is that he, owned the Corvette and was leasing the Lamborghini. And, certainly there's been, I think we talked footage of, 6 or so guys leaving the scene. And as far as I know, that's about the full extent of what's been, I think, publicly released in terms of the investigation into it. I do know that earlier today, Rashee Rice finally, made his own personal statement that he has spoken with the police and, saying what you need to say. And his attorneys also issued a statement, but, I wouldn't look too much into that because it was kind of just the blanket, we're cooperating. So
I have one comment on that statement, just if you don't mind jumping, real quick there.
No, yeah.
So I have to say that the one piece of analysis that I heard on that comment that I was thinking, and the first comment when I read it was stop the crap. And then I heard another commentator take it a step further than what I just did there. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that had the same reaction to it. It's nice to know there's some, shared, shared mental mindsets out there, like me, although I'm kind of unique that regard. But there was an element in that statement that said Rashee intends to do the responsible thing.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, the responsible thing is not to leave the scene of a crash with multiple cars that were hit and clearly damaged, when you were at least responsible for the vehicles that were on the road, because none of your other buddies, nearly for sure, have the money to own a Corvette and a Lambo. Right? So I have a bit of an issue with that, just that one kind of small block of the statement there. And I kind of felt that it could have been written with a little bit more self-understanding, maturity, self-reflection, whatever the case may be, because no matter what, he's got to answer the question, why'd you leave?
Yeah, it's that statement almost came off as like, I'm not apologizing for what happened, but I'm going to do everything the right way moving forward. And it's like, well, you're just completely missing the point of all this. Like, at least have some remorse or show that, you truly are sorry. You just come out and say, oh, I'm going to work with the police. It's almost like he's saying it as like like he's doing them a favor. Like, I'm going to completely, comply, and I'm going to do everything the right way. And it's like, well, yeah, we would kind of hope so.
Two ways to look into that, though. That could mean, he let his friends take his cars out and they were dumbasses in it, and that's why they left. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna turn over whoever I need to turn over, because I don't think that there's been officially proof that Rice was at the scene, with the video or anything. So, I mean, there's two. Yeah, it's the likelihood that he probably was there. I'd say it's probably more true than not that he was, but I'd say right now, I think there's at least a possibility that he was not. And
Right.
so maybe some of his statements are coming from that regard. But I do agree. Like, I think that both the statement his attorney made and him could have been a little bit worked out to sound better than they did. But the only two people that know the fullness of the story between them is the attorney and him. And so, they might be looking at it from like, well, this is just his dumb friends that he was like, yeah, take the cars, I don't care. And he's like, well, I didn't tell you guys to go
Race.
racing on the
Yeah.
highway. So, I mean, I don't know. That's why it's still pretty early in the stage of, I think, the investigation to really know, one way or the other, his total involvement. And, we're kind of just speculating right now. But I'd say legally, from what I was looking into kind of briefly, and I mean, I don't handle criminal law all that much, and I'm not licensed in Texas, so kind of with a grain of salt. But I mean, because there's no fatalities or any serious injuries, I think right now the worst he could get charged with is fleeing the scene of an accident, which is like a misdemeanor. So
street racing as well. It's
but he's charged with that if they could prove. I'm talking about what facts they have now. If he says, yeah, I was there, okay, you fled the scene. But if they can't prove he was driving, then they can't charge him with the racing. That would be, but that what you brought up would be, I think, the severity of what he could get, and that's a pretty low grade felony. I mean, it's still a felony, but I think in the terms of
it could have been a lot worse.
Legal, yeah, it could be worse. But I also think, like a misdemeanor, there's been players that have gotten misdemeanor. Right. I mean, that don't get suspensions for car-related things, like Jordan Addison, Jordan Davis. I think coming into the league had that. Jalen Carter. But those guys, right. So I think that's the more interesting thing to watch, how this plays out, because I think that would kind of be more of the hand in hand of if he's going to miss any playing time this next season because of this. But, as I said, right now it's still pretty early stages, and, we'll see how it all kind of shakes out. But at least seems like he's cooperating and they're investigating it. So I bet we'll get an answer here before the end of the week.
So just, unfortunately, I didn't grab this in the right way.
I did,
but I'll work on that. I'll work on that photo. That's courtesy of TMZ. The watermark is on that particular photo there.
He's not going to do time, Ray Love, but all right.
I think like you said, Alex, the biggest thing about that is what is going to be like the determining factor on if he's how he's punished, or how how the league decides to handle everything is going to be totally dependent on if he was there or not. I think if he's not there, yeah, he'll be obviously he would have broken the lease agreement with the Lambo that he wasn't the only driver.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's nothing, to him in the grand scheme of things. But I think, yeah, if he's at the scene, I think the NFL will take it severely more into consideration with possible suspension. I think if he isn't there, though, which is obviously the best case scenario, you would just hope that maybe he gets a slap on the wrist, and that this sort of scares him into not going about something like this. It sucks that it has to whoa, we're big now. It sucks that you have to it sucks you have to live through this and go through this for to learn, but like we said, could have been a lot worse. It could have ended a lot worse, especially for those involved. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those that that were injured, of course. But yeah, I think he for his sake, I really hope he wasn't there, and I really hope it was just stupid friends. So. Yeah, and if they are, he's got to cut those off real quick, because you're not going to last long in this league. getting
No.
involved with stuff like that.
And I mean, I think we've seen a pretty recent track record. I mean, I'm more thinking of John Morant, but I think we've seen a track record of, once I feel like when an incident happens pretty early in a player's career, you find out pretty quickly after that if it's going to be fixed or if they're going to kind of be gone. So, but I mean, ultimately, like I said, we'll see how it plays out because, it comes down to, the reasonable doubt I was talking about, kind of the standard that they'd have to analyze this by. And if they can't find any video evidence that shows he was driving, then it kind of comes down to whether one person in that group, once they locate them all, says that he was, or they all kind of stick to, I don't know who was. And if that's what they're stuck with, then regardless of what happened or not, legally, they won't be able to prove, prove the elements they would need to go after something more serious. Is that right? No, but that's not how the legal system works. Yeah. So, it's not always fair, but if that's how kind of this investigation plays out and it's nearly impossible to prove that he was directly involved other than owning or leasing the vehicles without someone confirming that he was driving, then, I mean, I think you're kind of looking at that misdemeanor leaving an accident. And that's kind of where that would, end. So we'll see what happens. But I imagine that we'll get it here by the end of this week or, into the weekend. And I'd also think with just today's day and age, it'd be pretty hard to not find some sort of footage somewhere.
Right. I know. Yeah. Everybody.
Get Skynet going. Get the. Let's go.
Everybody's got a dash cam nowadays.
Since I've been reading into this and looking at more serious or more news centered outlets to look at this stuff, I find it funny that when anything serious involves an athlete and the news is totally different from sports, I feel like they always feel obligated to put their stats at the end. So be Rice is being investigated. It's Rice was a rookie. He had 980 yards. It's why does that matter? Why does that matter right now?
It's almost trying to paint them in a better light. It's he was involved in this, but look at these
it's
stats.
It's just funny though when you go look at it. Yeah, you just read at the end of any of them. It's he's some weird sports stat. I'm well, I didn't need to know that.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you too, Alex. What do you think? I mean, obviously, like you said, there's still a lot that needs to come from this, and there's still a lot more that needs to be answered. But what do you think the Chiefs' reaction, will be to this? Do you think they'll have some sort of, disciplinary action? I don't think they'd cut him. I think that would be that's taking it a little bit too far. But what would you say would be because this is something that. I was gonna say for the most part, the Chiefs have been a pretty.
Dude, well, if you go look to the pre-Mahomes times, there was some pretty dark Chiefs stuff that occurred.
I was gonna say since you guys have gotten Mahomes, it's been a pretty
it's been cleaned up.
Yeah, it's been a pretty smooth ship for obvious reasons. You don't want that franchise quarterback to look around and be what the hell is going on? But to the point of that, it's almost shocking that it happened because you would think that franchise and that locker room kind of has everybody under the same mentality.
Yeah.
I feel everybody's on the same page. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost you got to know that Andy Reid's a very very much a second chance guy. So. I do think I'm sure legally if it plays out to be more severe than what it looks like right now, I'm sure it'll be made into a bigger issue. But I mean, I do think they'll take it serious, but I don't know if they'll suspend him or anything. I think maybe what DZ said, suspend him for the preseason, which
isn't really suspending.
But yeah, I've always from watching how Andy Reid has handled other situations, also thinking of the Kareem Hunt, he was all about giving Kareem Hunt a second chance until they found out that he lied to him.
Right.
And so, I think as long as Rashee Rice is honest and upfront about it, which that's also makes me kind of think that maybe this was more of a situation of, he let his friends drive his car and they were idiots and left. And he's kind of been honest with them about it and, honest with his attorney, and they're just kind of letting it play out. But yeah, I mean, I do think they'll make an issue, but I don't think it's going to turn into, any sort of suspension internally. And that would have to come, from the league.
Yeah. And just two quick things. This is the photo that was released by TMZ on the of the gentlemen that are leaving the scene. Just for the benefit of the audience, the gentleman with the red do-rag headdress, whatever you want to call it on, there has been reports, this is not confirmed or anything, that Rashee Rice was seen wearing something similar to that earlier the same day. That being said, the guy that's in the white kind of tighter shirt is of similar build to Rashee Rice as well. And so it would be very, you can't really see the faces particularly well. And there's two gentlemen there that have, one guy's got his head down, one guy's kind of got his head up, but part of his forehead's covered. So it's not easy to tell exactly who's who.
Which is wild. That's kind of like one of the only things they got right now.
Yeah.
It's like just that little clip. And I'm like, dude, how is there not more?
Yeah. And again, kind of covering off someone else's coverage, but I completely agree with the take on it, which is, let this be a lesson to all young players coming into the league. It is great that you want to stay in touch and keep your old childhood friends close, and you think that they've got you no matter what, and they're ride or die, whatever you want to call it. That's great. That's fine. That's cool. But you have to remember is that when you are that famous, as he is right now, after winning the Super Bowl and coming into the league and being touted as the guy,
as a rookie,
if you are ever in any sort of trouble, you can bet your bottom dollar from now until forever that the only name that is making any headline is you. And so what is more important than loyalty and the other things is you need that friend, you need that guy that is with you to say, you're not doing that.
Yeah, you don't need to be around a bunch of yes men.
Yeah, you're not doing that. No, you're not
enablers.
No, you're not taking the Corvette out on the I-75, or you're not letting these other dudes do it either, because if any of them crash or have a problem, it's your name, not theirs. You need that guy, or a few of them.
Yeah, preferably a few. You would preferably definitely want a few.
But you need at least that one dude, and you need to basically prioritize that one dude above everybody else, because you have to implicitly trust that they're leading you in the right direction, because they actually have your best interest in mind. Because if you're going to be honest, and again, you kind of need to be in these situations, you're the meal ticket.
Yeah.
You're the golden goose.
You're the bill payer.
It can be taken away pretty quickly too.
Exactly.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And then those people aren't going to be around.
Yeah.
You got no way to entertain them.
You find out who your real friends are real quick when you're down low.
This is certainly going to be the, I think, make it or break it moment for Rice from this. I mean, because regardless of if he's driving or what, I mean, clearly involved with people that don't have his best interests
in mind.
In mind. Regardless of what happened beforehand to get him to decide to race two cars on the highway like that. I mean, it clearly means you're surrounded by a bunch of dumbasses that don't really care about, your career or what's happening around, just as long as like you got the money to fund a good time. And, so we'll see if he gets rid of that, gets rid of that moving forward or not. And I mean, hopefully he figures it out and kind of uses this as a lesson and, thanks God and that, nothing bad happened and he couldn't be in a more serious situation, while also having to, live with impacting someone else's life in a more severe way. So, I really hope that this is a lesson for him and moving forward. The only thing we talk about with him is what he does on the field and not off of it.
I agree. I have 3 things that I want to quickly bring up as it pertains to this. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you all for joining us, though, that are here live. Just, before we get right into the thick of things and kind of don't, address everybody.
I agree with this. Probably.
Yeah, I do. Well, I'm going to comment to that real quick. The player can only be punished once for the thing. So, Robert, you made a question or a comment earlier in the podcast here. So the question is going to be, Kansas City has obviously spoken to the league, and between the two of them, they have made up their mind as to which one is going to, lay down the
hammer.
The hammer.
Yeah.
And given that no one has said anything, I suspect the league has requested that they be the ones to do the thing. And frankly, I think Kansas City would prefer that the league be the one to do the thing, because then it can kind of be precedent setting, hands off, not our fault.
It wasn't us. It wasn't us.
Like, hey, I didn't want to suspend you.
No, Dad made me do it. Dad made me do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with that as a general take as well. But back to the kind of the 3 things I want to bring through. Now, I just want to add one caveat. I do not have any additional information to prove that anything here. This is more just general questions.
Dude. Objection.
General questions. Yeah, general questions.
Objection.
But for example, one thing that you have to just think about and bring up, which is one of the reasons why someone could or would potentially want to leave the scene like this and not show up until the day after is if alcohol or drugs were involved when they were driving, because then they would not test out in terms of driving drunk or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing, and that's just funny.
That's what I was laughing
at.
Like,
and that's just funny.
Yeah.
Betting sheets, 1 year suspension.
Look at this, the prop bet.
He might have been blackballed from the league if they found betting sheets.
Life. You're done for life.
So, I mean, that's just a natural comment. I think you have to kind of come from this, which is if you walk away from a scene where you did the bad thing, you were in the wrong, and you all walk away. I mean, you got to say, like, what else? Like, one, that's either a major character issue, and you got to start to, like, you need to get different friends like tomorrow, right? So that's one. Or 2, y'all walked away because you were either high or drunk or both, and you didn't want to get tested. And that's a bad thing, right? Like, that's a bad
and
thing.
That's kind of where I was going when I said if they can't prove he was driving, is it fair? Because, I mean, logically thinking, why is someone going to leave the scene unless there's some reason that they know, like, oh, I'm in an F load of trouble if I
should have been driving.
I mean, speculating obviously, but like you said, it be a gun thing, a drug thing, or an alcohol thing, or like idiot friends driving and maybe one doesn't have a license or has a warrant or something, and there's like, shit, this isn't my car, let's go. Those are the only. I'd say that's the rise to the top of the cream of the 3 possibilities that are the reason why people left.
Well, unfortunately, with Skynet involved here, your buddy with a warrant screwed. And frankly, your buddy without a license is equally screwed.
Yeah, I would hope that NFL players are hanging out with someone that has active warrants, but I'm sure that they're out there.
Yeah. So obviously that's kind of one thing that you have to. I'm not saying it is true. I'm just saying that it has to come up in general conversation, because it certainly is odd that one would walk away from such a major thing like that. And then the other one, which is an interesting take, which is having looked up some of Dallas's street racing laws, because that's what you do when you're about to have a show like this. Is
research here.
The Dallas laws will allow for the police to impound and sell cars involved in street racing.
So how does that work with a lease?
Well,
Yeah,
so
not his
that
property.
so no, but it doesn't matter though. He could then be on the hook as part of the lease to pay back the company the value of the car that he is
Which
now.
did you see what he was paying?
No, I didn't.
Like $1,800 a day. Hey, dude, why? Why do you need
Bro.
that?
So Rich, I love that you brought that up because that was something I was curious about. I'm like, this dude's a rookie. He hasn't gotten his first major payday in the NFL. This is not something that's gonna be this is gonna be a real issue for him financially, especially if you're saying they're gonna impound the car and he's gonna have to pay back the full price of that.
Well, I'm sure
Well,
Alex.
I don't know that the police would be able to sell the car that's not legally his.
Right.
Because I mean, what if someone stole a car, got in a street race, got caught? Are they gonna turn around and tell this person sorry,
Right.
So I think it's given the circumstances, but probably means
what are the circumstances?
Corvette.
No, but what are the circumstances though? This is my point.
Well, I know the circumstances is not his car; he's leasing it. It's technically the property of that elite motor group.
Yeah, missing the point though. What I'm getting at is, you did one of two things. You left your keys out, and your buddies took your car and went racing. That puts you in the camp of you're just stupid. Okay, and then two, and you have bad friends, and then two, you knew what they did. You gave them the car, and therefore, I would argue you're on the hook for the results and the consequences of those actions anyway. So
and you're also stupid.
And you're also stupid, and you also have crappy friends. So, either way, you kind of fall in the category of stupid and having crappy friends. However, I do think that you end up kind of moving into that other category of you're the name on the lease. You have put your vehicle that you have leased and are responsible for in harm's way as a result of just ridiculous actions. And in the eyes of the law, if the law allows for a vehicle that is known and is on the road, which I assume he has to admit that, otherwise he's going to get sued like nobody's business from the leasing company. He may as well own the fact that he and his buddies, or his buddies at the very least, were in the car. And then he's got to answer for leaving the accident, the scene of the crime. Either way, there are so many different stacked things as a result of this, especially given the Dallas law. And just to be clear, these new enforced laws came into effect in September of 2023. Yes, I do my research. And they are aggressive because apparently this has been a major issue in Dallas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of another thing to think about as a layer to this story, which I think is a pretty significant one, if you're going to be honest. And Robert, to your point,
just saying though, if they did try to do that, that company would have a team of attorneys filing a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Sure
probably are as we speak.
Oh yeah.
I'd be curious because I'm sure he signed some contract. I'm sure there's a breach component that accelerates, what he'd have to pay.
Yeah.
Or if it got totaled. So yeah, that's probably the extent of what he's looking at, and that might be the full value of the car, which I don't know what that is, but I'm sure that's up there. If he's paying $1,800 a day,
to
lease it.
That's insane.
And then this, as you guys know, I'm Canadian. Our insurance works a little bit differently here, especially where I am in Ontario. Obviously, those that live in the U.S. and Texas is a little bit closer to insurance policies of places like Florida and other spots like that. Florida probably closer to LA a little bit as well, just in terms of the way insurance works, because you have wealth that is a little bit more abundant within those areas. So you're going to end up with probably a similar scenario. But one thing that we don't typically have here in Canada is insurance that does not cover when a third party or another party is driving your vehicle. It's just typically not an option that's easy to obtain here. Yes, DZ, you're right. Costco prices are insane.
Yeah.
But one thing that apparently is a common thing in the US, and one thing that was brought up in Dallas in particular, is it is not an uncommon option for you, that is more normal actually to have, where you can be the sole driver from an insurance perspective on a vehicle. And I don't know what his insurance was set out on each of the vehicles that were present. Like, so as an example, let's use the Lamborghini as an example here. His lease indicated that he had to be the sole driver. Well, if he wasn't paying attention and thinking ahead and saying, oh, I'm young and I can do whatever I want, not thinking that I'm going to go street racing one day, crash the car, and make the news. If he then applied his insurance to that Lamborghini, saying, I am in fact going to be the only driver of the vehicle, he's got a choice to make right now. He's got to say, I was driving the Lamborghini, and then face the consequences of those actions.
That's not really true, though.
Why?
Insurance, like you're like, you can lend, like, your coverage will usually, like, they'll probably investigate it. But I've had to litigate car accidents where someone lent their car to their friend and their coverage still applied. And that's just because that's, like, usually part of it. Like,
the coverage of the car owner or of the friend?
The policy that they're trying to go after, like the other person's policy, because I mean, it's their car,
right?
And they're insuring the car. And there's like, yeah, they are the driver registered on it, but like, if I lent you my car and you went out and got in a wreck, like, they're going to sue me and my insurance, and it's still going to cover that. So I don't know if he necessarily has to make a determination.
Even if your policy doesn't allow you to have a third-party driver?
Well, it just depends. I mean, it just depends what his policy says and
right.
But like, I mean, I represent some of the ones that have, like, nationally have out policies, and I mean, they're, like, I've probably more than 10 cases that have involved that situation. And it's still, I mean, that doesn't mean that the insurance can't then go back after you to recoup that money because of your breach of the policy or whatever. But from speaking of, like, the family trying, because I'm sure the other people involved are going to file suits to get recovery for whatever.
There's already one that has a lawyer.
Yeah.
There's already one that has a lawyer.
Yeah, like, they were probably at the hospital before the ambulance got there. Like, here's my card. But I don't know if he'll necessarily need to make an outright confirmation of if I was driving or not. Like, he could say, my idiot friend was driving, and they're still going to pay for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it would, not that this is the way to look at it, but I almost feel like for his sake, he needs to pray he wasn't one of the drivers, because I feel like whatever, legal troubles he'll get into with the lease company, the car company, will be minuscule compared to what if he was a driver.
Face some backlash from some people for sure. The leasing company, probably whoever he's got a policy with, and the league, and who else.
My comments were more along the line of the damage to the vehicle and the damage to the other vehicles that the Lamborghini hit. So as an example, there was the smaller vehicle on the shoulder, on the left-hand lane, when the Lamborghini tried to pass on the shoulder that the Lambo hit, spun the Lambo out, and then the Lamborghini, I think, hit the van that kind of clipped the van, and then the Corvette T-boned it. And so when you look at the way that all that played out, the Lamborghini hit like two different vehicles, if I'm not mistaken, from what I saw. And my whole point is, if your policy is restricted to you being the only driver of the Lamborghini, and if you were proven or don't confirm that you're the driver of that Lamborghini, I wonder if the insurance policy that you have will then refuse to pay the damages because you're violating your own policy, and then you're on the hook. That's the point.
Yeah.
So, actually, funnily enough, I actually worked for Canada's largest insurer, so I have some insider information on how this actually works from the insurance company side. Alex Thataway over here is on the legal end of these sorts of things. So we do have some interesting perspectives on how these things work.
Compared to Alex Smith, chill out. This is an educational component of the show. All right.
So, anyways,
there will be a quiz at the end.
but anyways, I thought this was a super interesting story. I thought there was layers to the outcome of this story. And I also think that
Welcome to the Wild Wild Insurance Show.
You will see both Alex and I on the next State Farm Insurance commercial with Aaron Rodgers and Patrick. We're up here in Canada. And so, but anyways, I just think it's a really unfortunate incident. I think there's a bunch of layers to this.
For sure.
I do expect you're going to have a lot more information coming out about this. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where this lands and how this compares to other incidents we've seen within the NFL and as to where this sits on the sliding scale. With that in mind, Alex, potential draft implications with regards to this.
For sure.
Which is a wide receiver deep draft class.
Which again,
I was going to happen regardless.
Well, yeah.
They're going to take one. So.
Yeah, but I think the question is, was it going to want you guys to trade up to grab a guy that's maybe a little bit closer to
wide to go now?
One? Yeah, or is it going to be something where you're going to look at the flyer guy later in the draft? You might end up doing both now, as opposed to flyer guy later in the draft, where you think you might be okay at the moment, kind of thing, right? So that's kind of an interesting, consequence of bad behavior. And then, of course, the other thing that you guys are going to have to hedge your bets against now too is this has shown some serious poor judgment. I mean, on a grand scale, regardless of whether or not your head coach is a second chance dude or not, you need to protect the team and you need to protect the legacy. And especially if you guys are aiming for a three-peat, if the dude's suspended for a year, he ain't helping.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I don't see that happening, but
I mean, like you said,
year suspension.
Like you said with Reed, the dude gives second chances. If Rashee really is apologetic about it and is really going to change his ways, drop the friends, and does what he needs to do to better it and for the good of the team, I think they'll bring him back with open arms, no problem. I think
this is an accurate statement, Zach. Very on par.
But besides that, I mean, I think it'll really come down to Rice. If this will really show us what kind of person he is. And I don't mean that as to, say like, oh, this guy is just going to keep committing. Like, no, like players make mistakes. He's a young player. It happens. We've seen players come back from this and you look back at it as just like, hey, they were young. They were stupid. They made a stupid mistake. They cleaned it up and they turned it around and it turns into a great story. But then you get the other side of it where sometimes you finally get out from that life. You make it to the NFL. You make it to whatever league you're in. And you just can't leave that life behind. And we see it happen to a lot of guys, and it's really sad because they finally do make it out of, whatever horrible situation they're in. They finally start making a little bit of money, and you see the potential, you see what they can do. And
there's a guy in the Patriots that was like that.
Yeah, you know what? We won't mention names, but exactly, that was exactly somebody that I thought of talking about this whole thing, because that was somebody who couldn't lose the friends. He couldn't lose those people that were bringing him down. So I mean, obviously we're all rivals. We all wish the worst on our rival teams, but at the end of the day,
not like that.
But I was gonna say, at the end of the day, we're all human.
I may be smug, dude, but nobody
wants to see this kind of thing happen. So for Rashee's for his sake, I really hope this isn't who he is, and this was just a blip in what will otherwise be a good career for him.
I'm going to make one last comment on this, and we'll move on to the next topic of the show here. I really hope that this acts as a lesson and a warning, finally, for other young players coming into the league. I mean, you had Henry Ruggs. You've seen what this is doing. Like, at some point, when are you going to stop thinking that it's not going to be you? Yeah. Like at some point, just stop it.
Invincible.
You are not invincible. You're not you're a special athlete and you are that good at football, but clearly you are too young and stupid at life. Start listening to your elders. they've already lived through what you're going through and start learning from what they're telling you. Like you gotta learn and listen at this point. And if you won't learn and listen from those of us that aren't an athlete and aren't where you are, start paying attention to the old dudes that are telling you who used to play and used to be you.
Shannon Sharp, listen to Uncle Shay.
Yeah, Shannon Sharp, Ocho Cinco.
Yes.
Like listen to T.O. Listen to any one of these dudes.
Hall of Famers that are telling you this.
Yeah, like they're all wearing gold jackets for the most part. Like Ray Lewis has said the same thing to young guys too, right? Like,
we're talking about a dude that was in a situation.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And so, at some point, you'd hope that these guys are going to listen to the guys that came before them. Right. One would only hope that as this has now made the news, that hopefully you have a full generation of young players that have had recency bias when they're coming into the draft this year to say, that's not going to be me. And here's hoping that happens. But moving on to the next topic here, we're going to start doing a bit of a rundown. Alex Smith, this is the football part of the show, so
pay attention, bud.
Your ears perk. And you're gonna do a rundown of the free agency acquisitions since the last podcast. So Alex, I'm gonna throw over to you to start with. And then I'll go last out of the three of us.
And I know we just said we were getting into this, but this is Chiefs related news, and I'm just gonna address it. But I don't know if you guys saw or not, but there's just recent, I think yesterday, a vote on extending a sales tax in KC for the Chiefs to get $600 million in stadium funding. But also, it was also dealing with the Royals asking for $1 billion to move downtown. That was voted no. And now Twitter/X is going crazy about, the Chiefs are going to move. And then I just saw before we got on, the Dallas mayor's like, I want to bring the Chiefs back home. And so now there's all this speculation of that. But I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere. I think that thing was voted no, mostly because of the sucky-ass Royals asking for, an ungodly amount of money to move downtown so that no one could watch them. I think it'll get worked out, but it's wild what I see on my Twitter timelines right now.
I think it's hilarious that you have two franchises in the same city, and they couldn't be farther apart in terms of which direction they're going in.
Yeah, it's bad. I'm not even Royal cards, baby. But.
Well, I just want to give a quick shout out to Milham, Jacob Milham. He was a former panel member here on the show.
He's a Royals.
He's a Royals dude. That's his jam. That's unfortunate, but good for you. And but yeah, on that note, yeah, you're right.
Damn Royals.
Yeah,
damn Royals.
But I'm like, dude, why does the Dallas mayor got to add fuel to the fire? Go out and bring him back. I'm like, dude, Jerry would never let that happen.
Over Jerry's dead body would that ever happen?
Yeah. So, but with that being said, I will move to the new signings. I think at the end of last show, we talked about the Wales rugby player that they signed. Be interesting to see how they use him, but I definitely think there's a role for him with, the changes we talked about in special teams, as well as he looks pretty athletic. I mean, it's funny, I was watching his rugby stuff and I'm just like, I don't really understand what he's doing, but it looks athletic doing it. So,
he looks like he's moving people.
Yeah, so. He looks fast. He looks good. So let's see what happens.
So just Alex, that's literally my sport. Like that's my jam. Yeah, that's my jam. So he and I we play completely different positions. I was in the scrum and I hit people hard. I used to love clocking dudes like that. Loved it. That was a highlight of my day. But one thing that he does have going for him is he's got some shiftiness. And the one thing that rugby has that football it has, but it's a rarer trait. It's actually one of the things that only a handful of running backs even have.
He ran a 4.43. So.
Oh no! Don't get me wrong. The dude's quick. Like that's not my point. it's the center of gravity. And so when you watch the guys get hit in rugby, especially the really good ones, they only kind of get knocked off the path, but they don't actually fall off their feet. Like, if you know what I mean. And it's a very rare trait for guys to have that kind of center of gravity and whatnot. And rugby players generally, that's their thing, because they have to have it. Otherwise, they just get hurt.
He got 400, 300 pounds.
So is he kind of like a football equivalent of a running back and what he's doing? Because it seemed like, at least when I was watching, was like a lot of pitches.
No, he's a pass catching running back.
Yeah. Okay.
So he would be. That. Yeah. So he would be.
All in his hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find his contract numbers for DZ, but I think it was like 4 million. 8 million. Yeah.
8 million.
I knew they paid him pretty good.
8 million. I think 2 years.
But that doesn't count. That's the thing, though. It's the international programs. That doesn't count on the cap or the roster. If they keep him, if he doesn't make the 53.
No, it doesn't count towards cap. I think he does count towards the 53 if he's on it.
Yeah.
But what he does allow you to do is, if you're not sure about him and you still want to pay him like that, is you can call him. You can leave him on the practice squad. And he doesn't count as a practice squad member.
That's what it was. Like, he's basically just an extra body there.
Yeah.
I think all the teams have that, right? It's like that international player, like
the IPP,
quote unquote roster.
Yeah. So you can
literally every team has someone, from like Nigeria or something. It's just
I think we have.
See if we can make this guy good. Well, look at Malata in Philly. He was an international player, and he got like 80 mil or 60 mil or something.
Yeah, but see, that's kind of what I'm saying, is that he's actually closer to what I played in rugby.
Malata?
Yeah, he's very close to what I played in rugby, and they are fantastic at. You got to remember, like, in rugby, it's about foot placement and power. And so he's exactly what you want as an offensive lineman. Malata is, and that's why he's transitioned very well to the NFL.
He's a big dancing bear, dude.
Yeah,
like
dancing bear.
Yeah, and so he's a rare example. And there's one or two others that have made the transition from rugby to the NFL. But the one challenge that he is going to have, and this is going to be his biggest issue, is, can he maintain the same nimbleness with pads on?
Yeah.
Toughness is not the problem. Okay? Like, in fact, I bet you if you were to ask the guy to go out with no pads on, he'd prefer it. No, I'm being serious. Like, you think
he definitely would.
Yeah. Like, you think I'm joking. No. He'd be like, I don't care if the dude's wearing an exoskeleton. I prefer just to go out just with me. I'm good. Thanks. And he'd be totally fine with that. Like 100%, because that would be me as well. I'd be like, jock strap and a mouth guard. I'm good.
Put one of those like 60s helmets on. It's just like a leather cap.
Yeah, little leather cap.
Wore those.
Cool cigar just in between drives. Give me a shot of whiskey. I'm good.
Yeah. But that's exactly it, right? Is I'm sure that would be his preference. But can he maintain the nimbleness? Can he maintain the speed with the extra pads on? The other thing that's really limiting is the helmet. When you have the peripherals blocked, you lose a little bit of the anticipatory ability when you're running. And so it'll be very interesting to see how he adapts to that. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying, trust me, when you have no helmet on, you can see everything.
There's a lot of what ifs, with this signing, but I think certainly an exciting one. And I think Reed is the perfect offensive mind to find a way to work him into a game. Kind of like what DZ said. I can see them trying to do some rugby type pitch play and just letting them go. And letting them fly around on special teams and everything.
Where else this guy is going to be good is in the slot.
Yeah.
See, the one thing that a lot of people forget is rugby is all about running and catching the ball and running through traffic.
Yeah.
Like that is literally the game of rugby. Like that is like 99% of the game of rugby is running through traffic. And so kickoff return,
I like.
Yeah.
Him
Right.
on kickoffs is going to be crazy.
And,
I mean,
and I'm not going to lie, when you're at the pro level, like when you get to that level of rugby and having been kind of ascending in that level, like
probably some pretty good athletes.
Like if first off, if you drop the ball once, you're benched.
Off the team.
No, like you're benched.
You're off the project.
Like you're gone. Like I don't think you understand. Like you are gone. And you're in a doghouse that you have to. It's kind of different. Like I'm seeing a lot of these football players where they get the second chance, like on the next play, to like reclaim it. The rugby guys don't. That's not in their DNA. You had your chance, you blew it. Sit your rear end on the bench. The next guy will come up, and we're just fine with that.
I think the Chiefs are the best place for him to go.
Yeah.
I think that's where he'll, as much as I hate to admit it, I think that's where he will. You'll see him used in his entirety. Whatever. I can't. I can't see. I can't say. I've watched him. I can't say anything about him. I haven't seen tape or anything like that. But I think we'll see very quickly what his strengths are, because that's something the Chiefs do pretty well, I'd say, with a majority of their players, if not all, is you see that they play to their strengths, and they don't. I know it's kind of weird with Mahomes, but they don't create the system around what the coaches want. They create the system around what the players are good at, and that's what makes the best teams, and that's what you see the most of the successful teams in the NFL do.
The other thing that the Chiefs have, which is going to be really interesting to see, and this guy certainly has a potential for, I could go as far as saying like a Christian McCaffrey style role.
I thought you were going to say Christian Okoye.
No. No.
That's really shooting for the stars.
Yeah,
no, that would be sick.
No, but like my point is this is he's used to holding on to the ball when he's getting clocked.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
and
trying
I mean,
to see if I can pick him up in my dynasty league right now.
but
I don't know if I can yet.
No, but like this is the thing that like this is what I'm saying is in terms of like translation of sports, right? Which is like what skill sets does rugby excel at that football covets, but isn't always something that everyone has, right? So in rugby, you're running through traffic 90% of your plays in his position. So he's going to be a great running back, likely not going to fumble very often. Also, keep in mind, he's used to holding onto a much bigger ball.
Yeah. So
right?
It's going to be like holding like an egg.
So it's like an egg in his hand. He's like, this is amazing.
What is this?
Yeah, it's like, what is this thing?
It's an exciting signing for sure. I'm eager to see how they implement him and how how this game translates. But I mean, it's tough to not be excited about it. And then in other recent signings, Chiefs brought back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I kind of just feel meh about. Which that also came after they announced that, or it was announced that J.K. Dobbins was visiting there, and then immediately after that, we were bringing Clyde back. I still think that there's a need to get another running back, and I still think they're going to do that. And I think just bringing Clyde back on a 1-year deal, probably the vet minimum, is a good cheap option to keep some continuity in the locker room and not have to totally retool your RB room. But I mean, he hasn't been anything more than a change of pace back since he's kind of been back from injury. But I think that's a good safe signing with who was out there in the RB market other than Dobbins. And I've been seeing reports that he's about to sign with LA, but I'm remaining hopeful that maybe they're signing him as well. But we'll see. And then, the other recent Chiefs signing, bringing in a perennial former MVP candidate in Carson Wentz to back up Patrick
You did
Mahomes.
not just say that.
I just can't. So we'll see. He's going to be the backup, obviously. But
He'll be the
hope I don't have to watch him play in real time in a meaningful game. But I think with Blaine Gabbert probably retiring, knew they were going to go sign some veteran QB. I'm sure. I don't think his money's been disclosed yet either, but I can't imagine it. More
now
than
he can
the
get
vet
carried
minimum.
by another franchise QB
to
a Super Bowl.
But yeah, I think that's a good, safe signing as well to get a backup QB and a guy that, if God forbid something does happen, you at least know has playing experience in meaningful games. Whether he's also got a lot of experience in throwing the ball to the other team or not. That's whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that was a good, safe signing. And then, other than that, hasn't really been too much more chatter, but I think this is kind of the lull period, with teams preparing for the draft. And then you kind of see that second wave hit after the draft. But I mean, there's still a good amount of, I think they still have about 12 or so guys that were on the roster last year that are still free agents. And they haven't really signed too many replacement pieces. So I do expect them to make some more moves. I just think that'll probably be after the draft. One, to kind of give more time for the Rice thing to play out, because I do think that will significantly change the way they go about the draft. And I think also just to let the draft play out and figure out if they got the guys they like, and if they're comfortable with giving those guys opportunities, or still need to go dip into the free agency pool and get some other guys. I think the only other rumor has been interest in Tyler Boyd, which I don't really know how I feel about that one either. But if the money's right, I think a good cheap option and a guy with experience, so that if Rice is missing 4 to 6 games, then you at least know you got a guy that has been on a playoff caliber team for the past few years and played meaningful snaps in a role in that. So
sorry, just one sec on this. Biggie, we covered that.
Biggie. That was during the insurance portion of the podcast.
Yeah,
rewind.
Yeah. Rewind that. We literally covered a full segment.
I think Alex Smith can give you some good cliff notes on it.
Yeah. Alex, go ahead and inform Biggie Bronco.
Yeah.
No, but in all fairness, I really do think Biggie on that. With Alex and my background in terms of what we've done professionally outside of all of this, I do think our takes are perhaps a little bit more leveled than most on the circumstance and situation. So I do encourage you to go back and rewatch it. So thank you.
He's on it today, man. Alex,
I should totally do timeshare. No, just kidding. But no, that's that was honestly, like I was very excited because I think Alex and I, you and I have done some Deshaun Watson stuff on the legal side of things. We've done some other stuff on there. That was a huge segment for us too. The Deshaun Watson stuff, in terms of what we did there.
I got some serious NIL money from that.
Pardon me?
I said I got some serious NIL money from that.
So, but anyways, with regards to free agents, we're going to throw over to Robert now and discuss kind of the stuff there with the Chargers.
Yes. So, Alex mentioned J.K. Dobbins. As he said, he did meet with the Chargers first. I think that would be a great signing for us. It makes a lot of sense. He was with Edwards in Baltimore.
Yeah,
he looked really good before. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're bringing over Gus Bradley, so, but he looked solid before the injury. Obviously, it's going to be, you don't want to.
Do you see that they put him in a little on crutches?
That's terrible. That's awful. That's so wrong.
They did it,
Robert.
Either way,
Robert, they call that foreshadowing.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Listen, cheap deal, all right? Cheap deal. Don't sign him to what the Browns signed Jerry Jeudy. They're going to sign a prove-it wide receiver and then give him a whole contract. Man,
DZ, the short answer to that one is rugby players. No, seriously, like I have
rugby player.
I have buddies of mine that are hockey players that used to give me their pads and swing baseball bats at me because we thought it was funny.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so that's your answer. Like full stop. Period. Like that's any discussion. like it's just that simple.
Oh my god. Either way, continuing. Yeah, I think Dobbins would be a solid signing for us. Obviously, if the money's right, maybe to a 1 year, 2 year prove it deal. The backfield. Yeah, it would most likely be a 1 year. The backfield is pretty barren, I'd say. Considering I think it's just Isaiah Spiller and Gus Edwards on the roster.
Special players.
Yeah,
he's got Gus Edwards. You got Spiller and then a set of crutches waiting for Dobbins.
Yeah, his locker room's just gonna have the medical Red Cross on it for when he comes in.
Ranger.
Listen, man, he's gotta step it up, to say the least. He's a special player. Maybe he can make some special plays for us, but I don't see much happening with that. If Edwards is so gung ho on this is going to be a run first team, I think it makes sense to sign Dobbins. I think he would improve the running game, considering we've just had no running game and it's been completely non-existent. But I do think we should also go after someone in the draft to address that position. You need to get younger, essentially, and that is the one position where you come out of the draft in your prime already. So if we can nail one of these picks at running back, obviously Harbaugh has firsthand experience with a lot of them, seen them up close and seen what they can do, and see if it'll translate to the pro level. But regarding any signings we have, we signed a fullback tight end, Ben Mason. That was a shocker to me. I didn't think fullbacks were still a thing, but hey, we need more block.
He's a hybrid.
I know that. I know that's
you played against one twice a year.
Yeah, I know that, but what I'm saying is I didn't think we would go after a fullback position. We had one in Derek Watt and Xander Horvath, and we never really used them. So we'll see what happens with the new offensive coordinator and the new system in general.
No, this is your coach.
You think so?
Yeah.
You don't think this is Greg Roman?
No, I think this is your coach.
He was.
Harbaugh.
You think it's Harbaugh?
Yeah, this is your coach. No, and this, I'm not even. This isn't even me guessing. Like this is your coach.
Yeah.
Like your coach is looking at this from goal line situations.
Yeah.
What he did in when he was with the Niners, and this is also those like wear him down style plays that he recognizes are so vital in the NFL. Trust me, I bet you this is probably more Harbaugh than Roman. Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, I will say this: Harbaugh obviously is gonna run. Yeah, I definitely see that happening, which is why I also think we would go after Dobbins, because it would make for a good backfield to have. You have
low risk, high reward.
Right. Yeah, you have the bell cow and Gus Edwards, and then you have the third down back or your. Yeah. So I like the move if we'd bring him in. He came in for a visit and then he went to go visit the Chiefs. So I'm not sure what's happening, but then the Chiefs signed Edwards-Helaire, so that kind of gave me a little bit more hope that we'd possibly bring him back, but not sure what's happening with that. In other kind of funny, talking about special plays, Cameron Dicker, man. Cameron Dicker, re-signing him was like the best. I know we tendered him or something, but I'm just happy we finally have a kicker. Dicker the kicker, man. Yeah,
he didn't make the Pro Bowl though, so he's not that special.
Don't talk to me about the Pro Bowl. What was the backup QB that made it this year? The Pro Bowl is like such a joke now.
I just say that because Chargers Twitter went pretty hard trying to.
Oh yeah, hey, you can't deny though
they did a good job.
The social media team is undefeated. If there's one thing the Chargers can be proud of, it's their social media team, because they
disorganized as the franchise look the past few years. Social media has been.
Hey, they've been A1. They've kept it. They've definitely kept it locked down for us to help hide the pain and depression that comes with being a Chargers fan. we talked about Christian Fulton. We haven't, like I said, we're approaching the time now where free agency starts to get a little slow. We start getting more into the draft and with mock drafts and seeing who we're going to target. Yeah, I can't. You can't. That is the way to beat Mahomes is to make sure he plays as little football as possible. Exactly.
And
so
of course you need Dicker to make the hard kicks.
Yes, and you need which he's very good at making those hard kicks. It's actually what Dicker specializes in. So I feel like
hard kicks. I agree.
Yeah, he's You're killing me, Rich. You're killing me, man. So all in all, we're at the point now where we're starting to look forward to the draft, and I like the moves they made so far. Would like to see him make one or two more here. There's been rumors that I know you had said it too about the Chiefs, but that Tyler Boyd is potentially looking at signing with the Chargers coming to LA. I think that's another one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's another one. Yeah, cheap 1-year deal, prove it deal. He's played in the slot, he's used to playing alongside higher elite or elite talent. Playing obviously with Chase and Higgins. So I'm not sure what he would look like as somebody who's, which is crazy when you think about it, but looking at the wide receiver room right now, if we were to sign him, he'd probably be wide receiver 1, just given what we have in the room right now. Until pick 5. Yeah. Okay. So we'll
Michael
see.
Thomas is still out there.
Slant merchant, I don't know about him. Yeah.
31.
That's crazy to me. It feels like just 2 years ago he broke the single season reception record.
Did you hear Thomas speak last year? As far as I'm concerned, he defines the term fig jam.
Yeah. There's a reason why he hasn't been signed.
Yeah.
So I mean I like what's out there. I don't like it a lot to sign it. I think the draft is where we're going to be making most of our moves. I've said this all off season. We were never going to make this team with free agents. We were going to supplement this team with free agents. We're going to make this team in the draft and with that 5th pick. That 5th pick is whether we turn that whether we turn that into one player and it's a dynamic blue chip can't miss player, or we mortgage that into some draft capital down the line, and then you really start to build this team, which I've said this before. Obviously, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there at 5, you take him. Yeah. That being said, the right move this draft is to move back. It's 100% to move back. If you can move back twice, I would love that too. Just restock as much draft capital as you possibly can and build this team in the vision.
I gotta check that out.
Build this team in Harbaugh's vision. I know, I've the Keenan Allen trade has come and gone. I was obviously very upset when it happened, and it was still really raw. But as the time has passed, and you look at it now from a franchise perspective, it was a necessary move. This team is going to be completely built. Whether he goes to Arizona or somebody trades up to get him, because there's been talks that the Vikings want to move up to 4, move up to 3. So we'll see what happens come draft day.
Yeah.
But the one thing that is going to be certain, and why I'm not worried, is I know Harbaugh will make the right move for where he wants this team to be. And at this point, if you don't have full faith in Harbaugh, you might as well not be a fan of the team, because that's kind of that's all we got right now. That's all we're hanging our hat on is we have Harbaugh. That is it.
So you're in the exact same spot the Broncos were last year.
Yep, exactly.
Right? Exactly. This is like deja vu.
Identical.
Yeah, this is like Groundhog Day for me, right? I'm watching the same thing happen again. But at the same time,
you guys traded your pick for a coach.
Sure. But I actually think that you guys are in a good spot. My only caveat to what you just said there is I would only trade back once. And I would not trade outside of the top 10.
What about 11? I know that's being very like, but would you?
Yeah.
I honestly, I think that the Chargers' plan is if Marvin falls, we take him. If not,
Yeah.
we're trading back.
That has to be
And
the plan.
yeah.
And I feel like that's the right way to go about it, because when we had Angelo on here too, shout out Raider Transplant Angelo, we talked about it, and we said that, and I made the same argument since back those weeks ago. You don't make a pre-draft trade of the 5th overall pick. That is such a valuable pick in the moment of the draft, because like you said, if 4 QBs go back to back to back, yeah, if 4 QBs go straight, you have your pick of the litter. You pick any player you want. That also
the
means
best player at any position,
right, exactly, not a QB,
which is they don't need.
Exactly. So you're looking at it as like, okay, we have essentially, and Harbaugh said it himself, we have essentially the number 1 pick if 4 QBs go right off the bat. So in that, a lot of other teams are going to start to realize that and say, well, I want that pick. At that point, if you don't take Marvin Harrison Jr., yeah, you better hope you're getting a haul. And I'm talking like multiple, obviously minimum 3 first-round picks. The Niners kind of already set that precedent with the Trey Lance trade, but you better be getting pick swaps later rounds. You better be getting maybe a second and another. There's got to be a haul, a substantial haul, if you're going to pass on Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5. That is the only situation I feel like you pass on him at 5, because like I mentioned, the wide receiver room, there is none. Right now, it's just it's a janitor's closet, and it's Quentin Johnston pulling down the little light switch, kind of like, hi, yeah, this is me. I don't even know where Simi Fehoko is.
Annex.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be very interesting to see where we go and what happens, because this is also very determining on what happens in those first 4 picks. There's rumors that we want to trade with the Raiders, that they want to come up and get Jaden Daniels. I would not mind taking some first-round picks from the Raiders for the next year or so. But I like the signings we've made. I like the position the team is in currently. This draft will severely sway me one way or the other. That I will leave it at that. I will not be in the middle come draft day. I will be extremely excited or extremely pissed and might want to burn the building down. So I'll throw it to you, Rich, leaving it with that.
The Broncos have been pretty quiet, actually, in recent signings and whatnot. We were a little bit more active in kind of obtaining key and core value signings for our team in the earlier stages. So, like little Jordan Humphrey, we re-signed our fullback because they exist, Robert, in the league, in Burton, that sort of thing, right? So we did a bunch of kind of key signings there. I was excited with some of the signings, although some of them, as I go back and rewatch some of their tape, there's a few things that I'm a little concerned with a few of the guys on. I'll cover that off when we get into the draft stuff a little bit later on. Not obviously tonight, but later on, to kind of go over that stuff. We signed yet another kind of value guard center option this past week in Calvin Throckmorton, who is a former Saint coming from the Panthers. Yeah, and so he's gonna be a depth guy, probably a camp body of some sort. Although I do wonder if they want to use him as a tone setter. He's a former Sean Payton guy, so he's going to be right on board with the culture side of it and the system. And so it's possible that he could be the type of guy that they might keep as a backup or practice squad later on in the, once cuts and stuff happen, to kind of be that voice of saying, no, this works. Keep listening. And we'll see where that lands. We'll see where that gets us. I'm personally not a fan of bringing in guys unless they are true culture builders.
Yeah.
Like that. Like he has to literally be megaphone type guy. And even then, megaphone type guys. Yeah. And even then, megaphone type dudes need to at least be able to prove something on the field. because a lot of younger guys can be like, dude, shut up. I can rock you on the field. Like I run you over, like just go away. And eventually the NFL and time always catch up with you. Right. So I'm always weary of guys like that unless they're just underperforming in other systems and can kind of reprove themselves in the current one. And so we'll wait and see what happens there. But he's really the only signing that we've had this past week that is really of any note whatsoever. And what's going to be very interesting is to see where we're at and what we're valuing going forward. And what I mean by that is many people are not a fan of the Denver Broncos quarterback room. I have not been shy in saying I am not as skeptical and annoyed at our quarterback room as many. I felt that I just feel that people are undervaluing and not looking at it critically enough of just how limited Sean Payton's playbook was implemented last year with Russell Wilson. And as a result, the quarterbacks that were on the roster, mainly Stidham, was really not able to truly show what he could or could not do. And I firmly believe that. I'm look, I've said this multiple times on camera. It's on the internet forever. And so I can't deny me thinking this because I've said it several times. And I actually think that Stidham is going. I'm not claiming he's going to be a world beater at the quarterback position. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that he is going to be much better than I think most Broncos fans and other media pundits think, because when Peyton first came in, Stidham was the first dude that he went out and grabbed. In addition to that, immediately after that, he went out and pulled in and retained Ben DiNucci. And I truly think that between the two of them, Peyton sees the right elements within their play style to accomplish what he's looking to do. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not looking to trade up. That doesn't mean that he's not looking to go grab his guy. But I do think when you look at the two quarterbacks on the roster, if things don't play out, I truly believe that Sean Payton is not looking at the situation saying, I could probably go, at least match what I did last year.
For sure.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, realistically, if I think we kind of talked about this a little bit already, if Peyton does move up, is he waiting until like 5, or is he trading up right into the top 3? Obviously Caleb goes 1. You assume Drake May goes 2, and he's like, I'm moving straight up right now with the Patriots. I'm gonna take our guy. We're gonna build it around him. Do you think that's a realistic scenario for Peyton? Because I think like you said, I feel like Peyton kind of believes in building this team from the inside out, and I feel like he's solid with his quarterbacks, like you said, that he's got right now on the roster.
I'm torn actually because I'm struggling to see exactly. This is my problem with my Denver Broncos right now. The front office has not been fired yet.
I know that
big problem.
that is a big one.
And I'm not talking George Payton, because I actually don't think George Payton is exclusively the problem.
Yeah,
problem. Yeah, like he's not the problem.
Right.
My problem is he is part of the problem, right, because he hasn't made the moves to correct what I believe is the problem. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. When John Elway came in and was the GM, especially in the back end of his kind of tenure in his position as being the vice president of football operations and kind of overseeing the front office, there was a lot of nepotism. There was a lot of people that were brought in that, in my opinion, had no business being brought into the front office roles. And there's a group of scouts that are there that I am not a fan of. And a lot of people that were clearly juxtaposed to Elway were kicked out the building. One of those guys is Adam Peters. And there's a few others that got shown the door as well along the way. But my issue is that we have not seen a tremendous amount of front office turnover. As a result, you're dealing with the same scouts scouting the same way on a team that has fielded 5 and something teams, like as in 5 wins or 6 wins for multiple years. That is a crappy track record. And then we have Sean Payton coming in, who by all accounts way outperformed what the roster was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And there has still been no front office changes. That is a concern to me. Because the scouts weren't the ones that did the thing. Because if you scout the right guys and bring in the right dudes, they're knocking your socks off. So it's not the scouts that have been doing it, because we've been not great for a couple of years now. So it's clearly the coach that was able to get the best out of the players that were on the roster. So it's just that simple as far as I'm concerned. And so I am. Do I think if Sean Payton is in charge, I actually think that he'd be more inclined to try to go after someone like Fuaga and say, I can keep my quarterback on his feet and kill it for the next decade, and then eventually trade a bunch of picks to get my guy once I think he's actually there. But there is definitely a valid line of thinking, which I'm not going to deny, of saying if we can trade capital this year to get our guy, we got $100 million in cap space coming up next year that you can kind of spend to obtain what you otherwise would build out through draft picks.
And you could, if he is the guy, like obviously if you were to draft him, you believe he is, you do what the Texans do, which is having a complete rebound of a season with a rookie head coach. I mean, obviously Sean Payton's not a rookie, but a rookie QB, essentially a rookie team, and make the playoffs, and you see that your QB's a stud, and so now you're like, all right, year 2, this is it. We're going all in, push all the chips to the center of the table. This is the year we're going to do it.
Correct. And so that's certainly a possibility as well. So I'm not naive, and I'm certainly not blind to that being a valid strategy. My concern is getting to 3 is going to cost a lot.
Yeah.
Our team has already been devoid of draft picks for a good number of years. And again, I harp back and point back to our front office. Their free agency signings these past few years have been somewhere between trash, god awful,
just downright terrible,
and dumpster
just dog water
and dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Right. So there's your range in terms of what we brought in for free agents, generally speaking.
It's honestly shocking that front office hasn't been just canned yet. You would think after that
so,
Russ
so
contract.
you got Russell Wilson, which is arguably now the worst contract in trade in NFL history. So congratulations, guys. And then you got McGlinchey, that has been not a great signing.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Just bad.
Yeah. Now,
the other guard.
I thought he might have done better, but he quickly proved me that I was wrong. And then you had Randy Gregory, who was again like not a great signing.
That was rough.
Who was the other guard they signed?
Powers.
Yeah, Powers.
He has had ups and downs.
Yeah,
but mostly downs.
Serviceable.
Mostly downs, but he's had ups and downs. But again, this is the point: is that's what your front office has done and gone out and got you in free agency. So are you now turning to me saying, "Hey, Rich, guess what? What? You have $100 million to spend next offseason. You're going to get a rookie quarterback this year by trading away all your picks. Are you excited?" No.
I don't know though. They could turn around, get their QB, and he plays okay, and then they can kind of do what the Texans are doing right now, and just spending like crazy to build around him. So,
Well, he's on the rookie deal.
It's that's the way to quickly rebuild. I think the way to like probably sustainably do it is to draft, not sell the farm, to move up and get a QB and kind of build the team around, and then because I feel like every year there's 2 to 3 QBs that are like can't miss NFL guys, and we're not talking about those same 3 guys 2-3 years later. So there's going to be another Caleb Williams in a draft, whether that's next year or the year after. Like there will be other QB prospects, and I think to build long term, you'd have to kind of assess internally first and realize our roster's not a QB away from being from winning the West or going to the playoffs or any of that.
That's exactly it. So here's the thing. As much as a lot of other fans, analysts and fanalists would like to assess here, the Chiefs did not just go out and trade a bunch of picks and get Mahomes, and then Mahomes changed their franchise. That is not the way the Chiefs did it. And if you think that's the way the Chiefs did it, you did not pay attention.
Yeah, you've only been looking the last 4 years.
And drugs are bad. So now, what the Chiefs actually did when they went out and got Mahomes is they went out and got some great draft picks with some fantastic talent, and they had a veteran quarterback that got some younger guys that were raw and kind of coached them up to a point where they were kind of more polished. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. They got a couple linemen in there as well that they intermixed in.
Was Hunt there?
What?
Kareem Hunt? Was he in that?
Or
did
yeah,
he come in?
He was drafted the year before.
He was drafted the year before.
Mahomes.
So you had Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, and you had a lineman that was mixed
Chris
in
Jones.
there. Yeah, and Chris Jones. So, not bad, right, from a drafting perspective. And then on top of that, the Chiefs went out and got some linemen, offensive linemen, guys that could help protect Alex Jones. And then the Chiefs realized that they could get themselves to a certain point, but couldn't quite get past that ceiling that was there, and that they needed a guy that they felt that could make special throws and special plays. Andy Reid looked at Mahomes and said, that guy. And he wasn't wrong. And so
was he not?
And what they were able to do was they were able to put together a special offense with an already fairly loaded roster of young rookies, and then mixed in a rookie quarterback that had a solid head on his shoulders and an idiot brother. Right? And that's cool. As long as your quarterback isn't the idiot and his brother is, then you're good.
We can deal with the brother.
Yeah, we can deal with the brother. We can't deal with the idiot quarterback.
No.
And so the Chiefs did the right thing, and they got their guy. And he is arguably, and it's not even close at this point, the best quarterback in the NFL.
Say it's not even arguably.
Yeah.
He is the best QB in the league.
But what you ended up with is a really solid team surrounding him that protected him and allowed him to make the plays and allowed him to grow and overcome, the rookie oopsies.
And now you see they're entering that second
era. Now they're in the second roll around of where you have to pay the man, but they were able to get a guy that recognized that what he did, he's already solidified a legacy of sorts.
Oh, yeah. He could retire right now and be a Hall of Fame.
Retire now, Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Solid, right? But now what they're able to do is they're able to leverage the legacy component that they were to build with the players and the building the roster the right way. And now they're able to go out and continue to put an offensive line in front of him. They're able to continue to go out and get kind of, random receivers that kind of fit the bill and that kind of stuff. And they're able to build up depth, rolling depth in behind certain positions and player groups. So cornerbacks, linebackers, et cetera.
O-line.
That's O-line. That's how you build a team, and that's how you get sustained success. When you look at what I was talking about, my Denver Broncos there, They have no solidified starters. They have no depth pieces at these positions. There is no rolling cycle of guys that are coming in and out and in and out, in and out, in and out. The closest that we had to that was at the safety position with Caden Stearns. But the problem is that he got hurt and still does, unless he can prove otherwise with the new regime that he's going to be able to stay healthy. But even then, it's one dude at one position group. You need a team.
It's not that big of a position group either.
No. And so that's exactly what my point is with the Denver Broncos right now is they're kind of in a really awkward spot. They what they really need to do is they need to pull a Miami Dolphins. But I don't believe that the Denver Broncos fan base is ready for the pain.
Oh yeah, no.
Like
they thought the last 5 years were bad.
Yeah, like they're gonna need to trade away Garrett Bowles, Surtain, and a few of the other assets that they have.
Yeah.
Ingest the draft capital, and then trade down this year, and then obtain another first for the year next, and really kind of build out the draft capital. Fire their front office, get better scouts, and then level themselves up. Like there's no other way to do it. Like you have to go about it that way, so that when you go into the draft in 2025, you have 3 or 2 first-round picks, and then the draft analysts come out and say, "How did you get that good of a team out of that one draft?" Like that. That's what you need. Like you need to do what the Chiefs did when they drafted Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. Okay. Like that's the draft you need.
Sounds easy.
Yeah, it sounds simple, right?
Sounds super simple. Oh yeah, just draft 4 all pros in the one draft. Yeah, you'll be good.
No, but that's what you need, right? Like you need to have a draft where you get 2 or 3, maybe even 4 guys that are blue chips. Yeah, that's your only option, and you're never going to truly build a successful team unless you do that. Because even with top tier caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen. Arguably, you got the Philly quarterback there who is kind of certainly flirting with that. Hurts. You got a couple other guys that are in that discussion. Even Stroud.
I was going to say Stroud.
Stroud. He's a great quarterback, but he still needs like a little bit around him to do the right thing. And
boy, does he have it.
And now they got it.
They did that.
No, but again, have they done what Philly did? And did they bring too many people in that are going to conflict? Or did they bring in the right guys that are going to gel and then excel? That's the big question with what the Texans did. But that's the thing. There are very few teams that built the way that the Kansas City Chiefs did. And it is shown that is the sustainable success. Is you build a team, you build the cogs, and then you build the depth behind the cogs. That's how you have long-term success. The Chiefs have proven it. Frankly, the Patriots did a little bit of that when they had their dynasty as well, if you're going to be perfectly honest. And that's the way you build a long-term team. The Broncos, if they go out and spend a boatload of money from the Walmart treasure chest next year from the $100 million for the team, even if they have their quarterback, my concern is that you're not building that long-term success model. You're building a short-term success model, and then you're then losing the draft capital because you would have had to given it up to get your quarterback, and you're not building those depth notches underneath, and that's a huge risk.
I think the other thing too for the Chiefs that made it easier for them, to say the least, was Mahomes going to the conference championship game in his first full year starting. Because once he saw, and even in that game, it was an offsides call or an encroachment call away from him going to the Super Bowl in his first year ever starting. Yep. So that kind of success that early on, especially for a guy like him, and then to back it up the season immediately after and go and win the Super Bowl, have another stellar year, I think it almost like he saw what Brady did, because it was the exact same thing with Brady. You win so early on, way before you're even thinking about paying your quarterback. You win so early on, and you win consistently that you're able to approach him now when it is time to give him his contract, and you go like, hey, we have a chance. And this is how exactly we have a chance to keep this thing built for however long can you play for? That's
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at. And he hears this and he's hearing, because he's going to get paid regardless. Obviously, you knew after the first season this dude was going to get paid a boatload of cash. But now you start to feed him that, hey, you're going to make your money, right? Money's like secondary.
Yeah.
You can go in and be better. You could be better than Brady. You can
You're
go and
chasing Jordan.
yeah.
Robert, your point at that point is you have already solidified the fact that you're going to get paid no matter what.
Yep.
Now the question is this: you're now chasing legacy.
Yeah.
And so the question is, do you want to chase legacy, or are you simply here for a paycheck?
And the winners, the real good QBs, want the legacy, and that's why Mahomes is. I mean, it's not even arguably, he's the best quarterback right now in the league. He did, and the Chiefs did everything right every step of the way. Drafted correctly, signed the correct free agents, didn't extend guys that they didn't need to. A bad franchise, a horribly run franchise, is signing Snead to that extension. A great franchise and a sign that the Chiefs are doing stuff right, they can let him walk, and it's not even a thought. We're looking at the Chiefs now, and we're not thinking.
And they let Tyreek go.
And they let exactly that to me is that when that happened and Mahomes came right around the year after and won the Super Bowl. That to me, it kind of just like, all fandom aside, it really showed me like the Chiefs are doing everything right, and that's why a lot of the league hates them, because they're doing everything the way you're supposed to do it, and every team is just like, it's like they can't figure it out.
I'm glad you said that, because if I said it, I'd been called smug asshole.
as much as
you aren't wrong though. I mean, it was like I mean, for a long time it was not fun being a Chiefs fan, other than like the experience of going to a game and it being loud. And there was a good 10-year plan of building this roster to what it is today, and finally making the aggressive move to get a QB when they realized they were a more elite pass throwing arm away from being really, really good. Like Alex Smith, a great QB, but he doesn't have the same arm talent as Josh Allen or Mahomes or Herbert has. I mean, he's more of your game manager. Like, I'm not going to lose the game for you, but I'm probably not going to win the game for you. And you saw that because they were making the playoffs. But it come to a point in the game where he needed to make a throw and he couldn't make it because he was kind of the check down king for most of his career. And then you transition to Mahomes, who can make those plays and, do stuff off platform and not have to be so methodical, go through a West Coast system. We saw the results of how that's happened. And I think more franchises now need to realize, like, if we want to be successful and not be a flash in the pan of success, that's how you have to build it. It's not selling the farm to get a QB to get more people to come watch games, but then have no one for him to throw to or anyone to protect him. Then you're only ruining that guy's career and the longevity of how your franchise is successful.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I'm saying though, is that so as an example though, if I were to look at what the Chiefs have done and what others have done, is you would like, so if I'm looking at the Broncos right now and I'm saying, okay, we want to aim for the for the top of the mountain, no pun intended, and target the Chiefs. How are you going to do that? Well, it would be to trade all of the best players right now, get a bunch of capital, including an additional first-round pick, trade back with that first-round pick to then get another first-round pick in the year coming up, so that you can kind of go in with multiple first-round picks. Then you try to trade that pick to get another first-round pick in the year after, and you try to extend and stack those over 2 to 3 drafts to really fill out and bolster your roster.
Mm-hmm.
In about in about 2 seasons, you will have a roster that is generally competitive. And you should have talent that is able to elevate and get you into the playoffs at the very least. Then and only then can you do kind of what the Chiefs did and not suffer. And that is you trade from, 20 to like 3 or 2. And yes, that's going to be multiple firsts and maybe even a second, but you've got depth already on your roster to allow you to weather the storm of basically 2 years and continue to allow for that culture to bubble within the organization and continue the churn of basically those that are working under the starters, and allow you to get that depth to step up over time, and then that's your sustained success model.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texans did a little bit of that. Although they got really lucky, and that I think they were a little bit surprised at
But they also had the draft capital to be able to move up and draft Stroud, but then move up and get Anderson too, and they got that through building the way you're describing.
Correct. Well, exactly, but I think that they even surprised themselves a little bit, because I think that they expected to take one more year.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And then I think they're like, oh, never mind, it's now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They saw Stroud and they're like, oh yeah, we got to go now.
Yeah.
I saw a stat on the Texans. It was like they're the first team to ever sign a 1,000-yard rusher, a 1,000-yard receiver, and someone had 10 or more sacks in free agency. It's just like, damn, they are loading up right now.
Yeah. So, but anyways, that's kind of where I see the free agency, kind of how our teams have kind of done things. I also think we covered off the Rice situation really well. We're going to bump kind of positional breakdowns to next week's show, guys, and kind of start getting into that. And then the show after that will also be kind of a lead into a bit of a mock draft for each of us that we'll all kind of take our stuff back and kind of display on screen and go from there. But guys, we're going to wrap the show up at that point there. I think we covered that off really well. Captain unfortunately couldn't make it. He was trying to get in. He did preface it saying that he's got some spotty internet connection there where he's
at. I think the Raiders have been relatively quiet though this week. So.
They have, and so that kind of is helpful. But we'll cover off a little bit more of what's going on there with the Raiders Nation. Thank you for joining us, all the Raiders fans here in the chat and joining us live. We will have more content on the Raiders next week for you, I promise. And Angelo, thank you for joining us here. That is fantastic. But ladies and gentlemen, until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace! Wait a minute.